What's your message to Labour critics over Heathrow who are still really worried about the pollution effects, the environmental effects, people like Sadiq Khan?
Sustainable aviation and economic growth go hand in hand. There's been huge changes in the way people fly in the last few years. And just this year, we've introduced the sustainable aviation fuel mandate, which will be increasing in the years ahead. Put £63 million today into producing sustainable aviation fuel, which will encourage and help create jobs here in Britain in places like Teesside.
So the Labour MPs who feel they will lose their seats around London because of this, and people like Dale Vince, they're all simply wrong.
Well, we've said to Heathrow that we want the plans that they bring forward by the summer to meet rules around carbon emissions, noise pollution and air quality. We'll work with Heathrow to make sure that those plans come forward. But look, the answer to new infrastructure can't always be no. That's what happened under the last government, and nothing got built and nothing got done, and living standards deteriorated. So it does mean having to take on people who are against new developments, whether it is wind farms, airports or new rail lines. And the problem is if you always give in and say, oh, OK, there's some objections to this, we'll end up in a situation where the economy continues to stagnate, living standards decline, and we'll be no further forward than we are now.
I do oppose a third runway at Heathrow Airport for three main reasons. The first reason is that conurbation next to Heathrow is the biggest in Europe. The numbers of people affected by noise just with two runways is more than the numbers affected by Paris Charles de Gaulle, Amsterdam, Munich, Frankfurt and Madrid put together. That's with two runways. My second concern in relation to a third runway at Heathrow is the impact on air quality. In London, one of the poorest air quality areas is around Heathrow. I'm not sure how 300,000 more flights leads to better air quality. And my third big concern in relation to a third runway at Heathrow is our ability to meet our climate change commitment. So look, I'm as pro-growth as anybody in the Labour team. I'm concerned, though, about whether a third runway is the way to do this.
Now, in terms of how you can win that argument, let me put it to you that you are not going to change the Chancellor's mind. I think that's pretty clear already. You've said that you will use every lever to get your way on this. That presumably includes a legal challenge, does it?
Well, here's a newsflash. It's not for the Labour government to bring forward plans for a third runway at Heathrow. It's for Heathrow to bring forward a plan. So let's wait and see the plans that Heathrow bring forward in relation to a third runway. The last plans they had would have meant building over the busiest motorway in the country, the M25, a tunnel underneath the M25, rerouting the A4, increasing the capacity of the Elizabeth line, the Piccadilly line, Southern Rail, bulldozing a village. Let's wait and see what Heathrow come up with. But the basic premise of your question is the right one. I will, as the mayor of this great city, as a pro-business mayor, somebody who takes tackling the climate emergency seriously, but also thinks a green transition is one of the greatest opportunities we have this century, I'll use any tool in the toolkit to stop a third runway happening.
And of course, there's an awful lot of local authorities around the London area who would be with you on that, a lot of the councils and a lot of London MPs. I was talking to John McDonnell on this programme, obviously a big figure on the left of the party, but also the Hayes and Harlington MP, and he said he thought that if this went ahead, a lot of Labour MPs in London would lose their seats. Do you fear that too?
Well, firstly, there's a huge amount of unity across our great city in relation to growth policies, from the extension of the DLR, from the extension of the Bakerloo line, from a West London orbital, from more housing. This issue, a new runway at Heathrow, divides our city. The good news is there is a cross-party group of not just politicians, there are small businesses, there are communities across this city who have seen this movie before. We've got the T-shirt, the DVDs, and so forth. And Heathrow in the past haven't kept promises they've made, which makes many people cynical about what Heathrow will do when it comes to their future plans in relation to runway 3.
You were pretty sceptical about whether the third runway would ever happen. Has what the Chancellor said today changed your mind at all?
Not really. I remain sceptical because I think the hurdles in front of Heathrow are very significant. And to be fair to the Mayor, I think he outlined three of them very well. You know, there is an issue with local air quality, with noise, and the overall environmental footprint.
And what you do about the M25?
Well, that'll be chaos, and that's part of the problem. You know, the plan to expand Heathrow back in 2016, the third runway that got some support, was extremely expensive and very, very complex. And it will remain even more expensive today and probably even more complex given the increase in traffic.
And you've argued that putting another runway down at Gatwick would be a more sensible way of spending our money.
Well, I think it can be done a lot cheaper, it can be done quicker, and it will provide some economic benefit. I think the economic benefit of Heathrow, based on traffic, is more significant. But you have to factor in the cost of creating a third runway at Heathrow and the environmental issues, and they are very significant.
But what about what the Chancellor says? You know, we need economic growth, we need a huge hub airport, and there's no question that this is how to get it.
Well, you need a big hub airport, but you need an efficient and cost-effective hub airport, and Heathrow is neither of those today. And I've no confidence that a third runway will make it more efficient or more cost-effective. It's the most expensive airport in the world. You know, average prices per passenger at Heathrow about 2.5 times what they are at Gatwick. It's over 4 times what they are at Dubai. So if you want to compete on a global basis, I think you have to address the cost factor, which is very significant.
Let me ask you about the speech a bit more widely, because, you know, in the past, you've been very critical of the UK for not making the most of its post-Brexit freedoms, not being ambitious enough. This was certainly an ambitious speech and an optimistic one.
Yeah, I think you do have to give credit to the Chancellor. You know, I liked what it was she was saying, but I think we've got to consider what is the reality around Heathrow, and I think the challenge is very big.
One final question, which is politicians, including the Chancellor today, but all of them really talk about sustainable aviation, sustainable green aircraft fuel, a new generation. Is that a kind of political cover for what they want to do anyway, or is that a real thing that's going to happen?
Well, sustainable fuel is a real thing, but we need it in significantly greater volumes than are available today. You know, the Chancellor talked about a mandate to use it. The problem is it doesn't exist. So mandating airlines to use a fuel source that doesn't exist today doesn't make an awful lot of sense. So we've got to see significant government support and potential government investment money behind the development of sustainable aviation fuel.
You are upset about the air passenger duty being raised again. Where are we now on that, and how important is it to look at that again?
Well, I think, again, this is very important, because if you want to look at the competitiveness of the UK, you know, we have the highest passenger tax in the world. We've seen a very significant increase in the visa charge that the government has just introduced. So there's a bit of schizophrenia here. You know, the Chancellor is talking about growth and improving the economy, while at the same time putting steps in place to dampen the potential growth and damage the economy, in our opinion. So if we are to progress airport development, I think it has to be done holistically, taking into account other factors like air passenger duty.